Good evening, everyone. Tonight is a regular meeting of the South Kingstown Planning Board. The date is Tuesday, August 26, 2025. The time is 6:30 p.m. The first item on our agenda is roll call. Susan Axelrod. Joe Murphy.
Here.
Liz Carp. Kiefer Wilson. Robin Pothier. And Maria Mack is here. Our next agenda item is approval of minutes. We have approval of minutes July 8th, 2025, Planning Board work session. Also, everyone should have gotten an email from Lynn with the corrected dates for the July 22nd, 2025 regular session. Has everyone had an opportunity to read through those? If so, would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes? We have a motion from Robin. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second from Liz. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Next agenda item, public hearing change to a previously approved plan, major multi-household land development project, side 571 Main Street. Jay, do you have anything on this yet?
Yes, on August 22nd, we received a request for continuance for this application. The applicant is still waiting for DEM to review the revised plans. I don't believe to date this board or the planning department has received all of the information associated with that, but they have asked for an extension. I'm sorry, a continuance.
Can I ask about that?
Certainly.
So there must be some implications when something gets continued, and are there things that have changed for this particular approval?
No, so I can advise that in March of last year, the applicant was issued a certificate of completeness, so they were complete. They were making some modifications to the plan, the layout, and that information, I believe, they forwarded to DEM, and they're waiting on DEM. At the moment, I am aware that DEM is severely backlogged, and I don't believe they are being very responsive. I think it might be due to their online permitting or something like that, but this applicant also has had issues with the sign, the public notice for the sign in the past. I did notice 2 weeks ago that sign is no longer out there either. So the sign would need to be replaced to indicate the public hearing is still open, and it's not there either. I would defer to legal counsel to say how the board should proceed on this.
Obviously, the application's been continued for a while, which could have an impact on public notice and public participation. I'd recommend that if the board finds that there have been too many continuance on this application, that you could grant the requests noting that this would be the final continuance granted, and then at that point, if they wanted to proceed further and they're still waiting on DEM, they could withdraw their application without prejudice and then renotice if and when they receive the approvals from DEM that they're seeking.
In their request, the applicant is asking that it be continued for the public hearing to resume in November.
Okay. Do we have a date for that meeting?
If we continue to November, will there be notice again?
So there hasn't been re-advertisement through each continuance, because generally you only are advertising for the first hearing and then relying on the fact that all subsequent hearings, anyone who's interested would be at the first hearing to hear you continue it to a date certain. Once you do it a number of times, I'm sure a lot of members of the public would lose the thread. So it wouldn't be required, but you could, if you choose to, note that this would be the last continuance you'd grant, and that if there's any further delays, they could withdraw and then they'd have to re-advertise.
Question. Can we also, or in lieu of that, say this would be the last extension, and anything beyond that would require a public notice, not necessarily that we're having to withdraw?
You can do that. You can do that.
I'm still concerned, the last time we heard from the public, they were concerned, if I recall correctly, about water and a number of other issues. And how do we know that they are aware when the next public hearing is going to be?
That's a good point. I think that's part of why Peter made this suggestion.
Yes, but I'm more concerned about giving, if we give them an extension till November, I think we need to give public notice before the November meeting.
So you could, I suppose you could grant the continuance request, but do it based on the condition that they provide further public notice. They're not here tonight, so we don't know whether or not they'd agree to that or not. But you can always make the motion, and then we'll communicate to them and see how they respond.
I would support that motion. I'm not sure that I'd support a different motion.
Go ahead, Susan.
But we also have the option to not grant a continuance. So that's more of a gift than just saying no.
Well, you do have the option, although I would hesitate to do that, just because before you choose not to grant a continuance, I think you should at least put them on notice that we're considering at the next hearing that we will not grant you any further continuances, just to give them some fair notice that their continuances are going to be up soon. It's not required, but if they could come back and say, well, there are these extenuating circumstances why you should have granted me a continuance that violated our due process rights, they could be grounds for an appeal, and then you'd also run into the fact that there's an automatic approval if you don't act on it within a certain amount of time, which they could raise if you refuse to grant a continuance. So I'd say that if you are not going to grant a continuance, you should say in your motion tonight, we will not continue it beyond whatever date you put it down for.
And how does that fit in with the issue of the fact that it's sort of not their fault if DEM hasn't gotten it through the process?
So that's true, but there are certain things they could do to try to structure it differently. One would be they could always come back after they've received DEM review, or they could also ask for approval here contingent on DEM review. So they're the ones they're choosing to follow this middle ground, which is really not providing adequate public notice. So.
And does the fact that they have a decision based on an appeal make any sort of long-term continuances not relevant to any changes to regulations that may
So
occur in the interim?
So I think their appeal approval had the ordinary vesting period, which was set to expire, I believe. So in any event, that approval through the appeal will be vested up until it expires, but this won't really affect that either way.
No?
Well, I certainly want to be ample public notice, but I also think that we need to take in consideration that his project has already been approved. They have a project that's approved, and they have come back and asked for a revision, and that's what we're considering. We're considering the revision to the plan, not whether this project goes forward or not. The revision to the plan has less number of units. He has worked fairly close with the board as far as the aesthetics, and it's being held by DEM. we can certainly say, we're not gonna give you an extension, and he could very well just say, I'm just gonna build what I was originally approved, which is gonna be higher density, more impacts to the community, and truthfully, not as good as the plan that he's been working with us on. So on this, I would be more inclined to say, we give him the extension that he's asked for, and we also note that anything beyond that will require additional public notice. So that's where I'm at this.
Susan?
I don't object to giving him an extension, but at this point, because it's been so long since there's actually been a project before us, I would like to see it done in some way that the next time when they actually come, there will have been a public notice. I don't know if that's a possibility. Like, it's been so many months since this neighborhood has even thought about this project. How do we...
I just wanted to add that I did notice in the file the last time this was advertised was in May of 2024. I'm not sure if the applicant, I want to say we made them re-advertise one other time and they did not provide us with that.
So you could make that as part of your motion, whether they comply with that or not. You'll have to see if and when it comes back in November. We'll obviously let them know if you do put that as a condition in your motion, and they may agree to it just to be cooperative with the board. But if they don't, and they come back in November, then you kind of be in a tough spot of, are we going to hear this application now, even though you didn't provide further advertisement?
Yeah, it's tough to find the balance between fairness to the public as well as fairness to the applicant, in terms of being practical and so on. Anyone else have any thoughts of how to potentially configure this motion other than making the statement that this would be the last continuance? Robert?
Well, I think that as things continue to change, that perhaps, I don't know where the fine line comes between something that was approved in 2014 and now really doesn't comply, why that is still granted. So I kind of think it needs a refreshment. I also think that maybe we could hear from the public and what they want to add to the.
Can we do that if we're, I mean, this is a continued public hearing, and if there are people who are wishing to speak tonight, how do we handle that if we're talking about continuing it rather than having a full-scale discussion?
Yeah, I think if you are going to continue it, it's better to do that up front so that any members of the public can put their statements on the record on a night when the applicant is here and they can respond to it. If the board is only going to address the narrow issue of the continuance.
Can we structure the motion so that we agree to continue it, but would like to see an effort made by the applicant to renotice without saying you must?
I think you can. You can grant the motion to approve if you're inclined to. You can decide whether or not you want to make that motion to continue. Put them on notice that this will be your last one, and then you can just instruct our office to reach out to counsel for the applicant and request that they re-advertise in advance of the next hearing date.
How does that sound to everybody?
Well, I'm so unclear as to whether we're asking if they will or we are saying that it is a condition of the extension.
We're trying to take the middle ground here and ask them to do so rather than saying you must and then potentially, as Peter said, having an issue when we get to November.
Do they have the hours? There's no requirement to?
There is. And this is the second time that this sign has disappeared.
Well, I certainly have no hesitation in requiring that they do that tonight and put a new date on it, and that be part of the continuance.
Can we ask the local papers to publish notice? or to write articles about the upcoming planning board?
Unfortunately, I don't think we can, as part of a motion, ask a newspaper to write an article and then.
No, I'm not
the
making,
advertising would be
no,
up.
I'm not asking if we can just, the motion would be the motion you described. But if we were to make that motion or approve that motion, could we also approach local papers about writing an article that would notify the public?
Well, you know, it's tough these days because we don't get reporters at our meetings, and I don't know if they watch them online and actually write something, or if it's all AI.
No, I'm asking if if somebody went and suggested that perhaps they might write that article, would that be inappropriate?
Might be beyond our purview.
Right, you could ask, my gut would tell me that they would be afraid of eating into their bottom line because they make money off of the advertisements that the applicants usually have to pay for. If they did it through an article, they might realize they're going to lose out.
I recognize that we would have no control over whether they would write it or not. My request is simply, would it be inappropriate if someone were to approach them and give them that information and suggest that a small article might be appreciated?
It wouldn't be inappropriate.
I think particularly because it doesn't necessarily just involve the neighbors in a half-mile radius. It's part of town. It affects everybody really. And in cases in the past, not everybody got to know what was going on. So I think that's a really good move.
So while it's not part of our official motion, if someone were to.
I understand. I would support the motion that was previously suggested.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion to that effect?
I'm not sure I can control this, but I'll make the motion that we provide a continuance with the condition that he posts the sign with a date certain. We can describe what that date is, and that also we be on notice that anything beyond that date, or anything beyond the next, or any additional continuances beyond that require the public notice.
I think the way I said it is we would ask that they consider noticing the public prior to the November meeting.
I'm okay with that.
So Joe has made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Motion from Joe, second from Caper. Any further discussion?
Just clarification includes all that, the making the
Sign.
intent, the signs, and anything beyond the November requiring public notice.
We got it. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It passes unanimously. November 25th.
Thank you.
And the dates, what's a reasonable date certain? What's a reasonable date
That
certain?
sounds really late for. I know it sounds like Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving is the 27th.
Oh, it's on a Thursday?
It's the fourth Thursday, right?
Maria, it's the Tuesday before Thanksgiving.
Do we want to put anything in the motion about, I know we want to stay away from a line in the sand, but do we want to put anything in the statement about what happens if he does not, if he asks for a further continuance?
Oh, I think we did.
We did.
Did we say something?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, what's a reasonable date certain for updating those signs and putting those signs? I would propose like September 15th, that by September 15th, he posts the signs and provides feedback to you that they are posted.
I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I believe our subregs require 10 days. 10 days to pick me up. The advertisement's generally a month, let's say, 4 weeks.
So a month before the November is when it would be required.
if they were doing a full re-advertising, like this was a brand new public hearing, we would get the ad in for the paper in at the end of October. And it basically takes the whole month of November to get the newspaper ad satisfied. And then there's a direct abutter notice and sign that happens 10 to 14 days before the hearing.
So the sign doesn't have any degree of continuity when something's continued?
The signs are difficult because for instances like this, we have continuances all the time. That sign, when that sign gets made and goes out, it's for the first hearing and never gets updated again. So that sign, had it still been out there, would have reflected a date of May 2024.
You have to either make new signs or put duct tape over it.
And the practicality and the logistics of staying on top of that for our department is really difficult.
So, I mean, but my question, I think, is pretty simple and straightforward. I mean, we're doing a condition of approval for this continuance that he update their signs and post them. And what I'm asking is, what date are we going to ask him to do that by?
If you would like it to match what normally happens, then you can say in compliance with the subdivision regulations, which is 10 to 14 days.
I'll go with that, I guess.
Is everybody okay with that? No, that's a given because it's in our regulations.
I'm fine with that.
Okay. So, Mr. White, as you heard, since we continue this, we're not going to be taking any testimony from the public. But you now know that it's continued until November 25th. We know.
So I've been here before, and there hasn't been offered time.
Right, not when there's a continuance, correct, Peter?
But as a public hearing.
The meeting time starts at 6:30, so it would be November 25th. The meeting would start at 6:30, and then whenever you reached it on the agenda.
I think Mr. White was asking about the ability to speak tonight.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I thought he was asking what time the meeting would start.
No, I think he's,
No, and I think he's also suggesting that this meeting has been continued repeatedly, and he showed up tonight with the expectation that we would move forward with that meeting, and he would like to know if he can speak.
I would suggest that because the matter has been continued and because the applicant isn't here, that any comments be postponed until the 25th.
which we understand has got to be frustrating for members of the public, since this goes back to more than a year ago. That's why we tried to find that balance in the motion.
When you state it's a public hearing, I thought.
It's a continuation.
Right, but as a public hearing, I thought I could just speak. You know, Mr. Murphy asked in November that it didn't get gone. Mr. Murphy asked that it be done in June. Now we're going to November. The DEM application is just to show the water. It's not approval of this application. That's
I
it.
don't think we can get into any kind of detail. Sorry.
Well, as a public hearing, I can't comment.
I think actually Mr. White is asking something different. I think he's asking whether or not he can make a public statement, recognizing that the applicant is not here to hear that, and recognizing that does not give him a chance to respond, but that he's requesting that even under, despite that difficulty, he was given notice that there would be a meeting. He was not given notice that there was a request for continuance, and he's simply asking if he can put his opinion on the record. Am I misstating your request, sir?
Correct. Like, I'm asked to decipher this, so he should be able to decipher a public comment from today. Like, I have to decipher each week, go in and look. if it's coming. And as the planning department said, there's a piece of tape put over the planning application sign. So that's what happens. So when it goes from June or whatever date the original sign went up, it's just that the original date is on there as they told us. And that's it. How do you decipher that? It's tough.
And very unclear. Peter, do you have anything to add? Because I understand the frustration here.
No, I wouldn't have anything to add. I just advise the board that you should caution any, reserve any substantive comments on the comments you've heard until the 25th.
Okay, sorry.
And I also ask, is it fine that the public submit a letter to the planning board that we read before that meeting?
Absolutely.
I've submitted so many letters that aren't addressed in this meeting, so, with my neighbors' signatures. And we know it, because it went to all the planning board members and the department.
All right, let's continue on. Our next agenda item is a major subdivision comprehensive permit pre-application concept plan, Frederick Hazard subdivision. As planning board members are aware, pre-application is an opportunity to share information between the applicant and the board, and it's conversational in nature. It is not a public hearing. Is there anyone representing the applicant? Jay, isn't this the second time this has happened?
This is the second time. I'm not aware of what's happening. I know it's been summer and you've been retired. I think something's getting lost in translation. I reached out to the attorney that was on the project team forum and left a message and have not heard back from them, so I'm not really sure.
Okay. We will wait until they reappear. Next agenda item, major subdivision, flexible frontage, pre-application concept plan, 23 Rockland Drive subdivision. Good evening.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Eric Creevy, P-R-I-V as in Victor E. I'm a registered professional engineer with DePreet Engineering. Office is at 2 Stafford Court in Cranston, Rhode Island. Here before you tonight for a pre-application of 23 Rockland Drive. It's on Assessor's Plat 56-2, Lot 7. I'll wait till the graphic comes up just to kind of... I actually have an extra, while we're waiting for that anyway, Madam Chair, I actually have an extra piece of information I'd like to share, if that's okay.
Certainly. Thanks.
So the property, as I mentioned, is located at 23 Rockland Drive. It's a 1.3 acre parcel. It's zoned R10, so 10,000 square feet per lot density. And the parcel itself has 52 feet of frontage along Rockland Drive. So as you're coming up Rockland, there's a bend in the road. That's kind of an interesting piece of where the 52 feet is, because the road itself takes the bend, and it's not an even 50. It's not like an even 50 feet like you typically see on a future right-of-way, but there is 52 feet to access directly from Rockland Drive. Also in the northern part of the parcel as well is actually the terminus of Hunt Avenue as well. So there's two right-of-ways that front on the parcel as well. There is an existing single-family home that's located on the northern part, and it has a driveway that comes down to that corner of Rockland Drive. The general area is serviced by municipal water and sewer. However, this property itself the existing home is a septic system, so it is a septic and public water as well. This parcel is also just east of a South Kingston Land Trust piece. It's actually I actually don't even know how to pronounce it. I was looking at the Thulis. It's a 28-acre.
Phyllis Woods was.
Phyllis Woods, yeah. It's a 28-acre piece that's with the land trust since 1994. So that's all just west of this property as well. The applicant is proposing a 3-lot subdivision, but utilizing the flexible frontage that would maintain the existing home. But the existing home's driveway would come off of the terminus of Hunt Avenue now, so it'd go off to the north. There is the direct connection that would be able to go there, and it reaches there today. So the driveway for the existing home would go to the north. And the other 2 lots, so there'll be 2 new homes. So with the 3 lots, it's 1 existing and 2 new. Lot number 1, which is the top lot, is the existing lot. It's proposes 18,864 square feet, so almost double the 10,000 of the underlying zoning, and the driveway would come off of Hunt Avenue. Lot number 2, which is that middle parcel, is that would be a new single-family home. That would come off of a 26-foot frontage off of Rockland Drive. And that's a 19,830 square foot, again, almost double what the underlying zoning requires as minimum. And that would have a new water and sewer service, so connect directly to the municipal sewer in Rockland. And then lot number 3 is down in the south there. That would be a new single-family home also with 26 feet of frontage, and that'd be a 19,532 square feet. Again, each of these houses would have, again, we're at the conceptual pre-application stage, but each of these houses would have a dry well to be able to take the roof runoff and infiltrate directly on the site, and the driveways would have infiltration trenches as well. So at the next stage, we would be handling and demonstrating how stormwater is mitigated to pre-development levels. Again, not at the pre-application conceptual stage, but we've at least thought of it and how we're looking to handle it as well. All of the lots, as I mentioned, are approximately almost double what the underlying zoning allows in this area. So as far as the yield plan too, so I had a discussion with the planning staff, and it was mentioned that obviously a yield plan would be required at the preliminary plan stage, so we provided that in advance here. I just passed out. Now I understand it wasn't in your packets in advance, and I apologize for that, but we wanted to provide what the yield plan would do, and that shows how it could work traditionally. So you create your own frontage, and we have a new through road coming through there.
Yeah, I was a little confused because it's a dead-end road, right?
Hunt is a dead-end road, and we also have access to Rockland. So, yeah, it would be connected to a through, would be creating a new through road. Instead, typically you end up seeing just a little cul-de-sac created, right? Just a cul-de-sac and people create the frontage, but it made more sense in this instance to connect the 2 roads. So on the yield plan, Jay's trying to get it on the screen, but we wanted to show how it works, how it could work. Thank you, Jay. So how it could work without the flexible design, the flexible frontage. And so that would have about 430 feet of roadway coming through there that would create the frontage that would be needed to, again, create the 3 lots there. In order to align with the right-of-way without making the road go all over the place, it'd be taking out the existing home and having to recreate a new home. Again, 430 linear feet of roadway there. It didn't make sense in our mind. We felt that with approximately 10,000, 11,000 square feet of extra impervious for the roadway, it just extra roadway infrastructure to maintain. It didn't seem like the flexible frontage was a really nice design alternative in this instance. So.
I'm sorry, I'm visually challenged. So
sure.
I'm just looking at the yield plan for the first time. So on the yield plan, it shows Hunt Avenue is coming through to Rockland Drive. And that's your proposed development? you're gonna extend Hunt Avenue?
We don't want to do this. We were showing with a yield plan how it could be developed with not requiring, so we've requested to do the flexible frontage to reduce down the frontage and make them small, quaint lots. But we wanted to show how you could create the frontage and do it by right, as kind of creating your frontage and such. So that's what this, the yield is not the preferred layout.
I see. This is like a contingency plan.
It's like a justification
Right.
for doing the.
Got it.
Actually, I can quickly read the piece of the ordinance too, just to make sure, and I'm sure you guys are familiar with it. So it's from 5022 of the zoning ordinance. It says flexible frontage provision and creating with less than frontage required. It says that upon approval by the planning board, through a request of a waiver pursuant to the town's subdivision and land development regulations, the following lot width variations may be permitted. So rather than having to go for zoning relief, the planning board is allowed to do that as part of a waiver process in the subdivision process. And it says in residential zones, R10 to R200, so we're in the R10 zone. Planning board is authorized to reduce the lot frontage and lot width of newly created lots in a subdivision on any public or approved private street to a minimum of 20 feet. So lot 1 had 26 feet, lot 2 is 26 feet also. I'm sorry, reverse that. Lot 1 actually had 40, 3 off of Hunt, and then 2 had 26, and 3 had 26. They all have more than the 20 that's required. Going to the next section in there, though, it says the planning board must, before approving such flexible lot frontage and lot width, make findings of fact that, and again, not right now, this is a pre-app, but we will have to do this, is using the flexible design, the flexible zoning is in the best interest of good planning design as evidenced by consistency with the comprehensive community plan and the zoning ordinance, and 2, would result in a better use of the land than would be permitted under conventional zoning. Later subsection says that a yield plan shall be required to show that no additional building lots shall be allowed on the flexible than would be allowed as the conventional. So the yield's there to justify. If we couldn't get 3 under the yield, you wouldn't be able to get 3 as a flexible frontage.
I understand. So the preferred design is in fact the site layout plan that we previously reviewed.
Correct. No public infrastructure, no roadway, no, it would all be individual units, individual driveways, individual homes, and such.
Liz, do you have a comparison between the length of drive in the yield plan? I'm just curious, and the amount of driveway in the proposed plan?
I don't.
Okay. Just from my eye, it doesn't look that much different, so I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, I don't. I know that the public road would require the 24-foot width driveway. Typical residential driveway is only going to be 12 feet wide, maybe 10 feet. But that is information, again, at the pre-app. I'm noting it. I can give you more information on that, and that's helpful. Yep.
Are any of the lots that you have shown, are there any issues with the contours or potential for issues with stormwater?
We don't envision so. Again, at pre-application stage, but no, we don't envision that we would have any issues out there.
Susan?
So this is a new one for me, so I'm going to have some questions here.
Sure.
Can I maybe ask staff what is the process for creating a new road, and whether an applicant can draw a line from here to there and just say that that's an option without, this is being proposed to us as this is what a conventional subdivision would produce. But I would think there'd be a lot more to creating a public, sounds like a public road, than just drawing these lines on map and saying, well, this is the road that we would build. And how can we then call that a legitimate conventional subdivision without that whole background of this kind of road being approved? Did I articulate that?
Sort of, yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of a tough one, Pete. I don't want to complicate the matter, but the yield plan is required to show what do you have, what are your rights, what do you have? Do you have a 10-lot subdivision or do you have a 2-lot subdivision? If they can, so they're required by our regulations to show us a plan that shows the maximum build out if they were to do it conventionally to the letter of our subregs and our zoning ordinance. They're only required to show that it's akin to a master plan where you don't need to engineer it, you don't need to design it, you just need to show, hey, if we were going to do this, this is what it would look like. Oh, and by the way, it would include 12,000 square feet of impervious coverage, which would require drainage, and all the other things that come along with the public roadway. The planning board's job is to look at this as a potential possibility that they would spend a significant amount of money and put it in an extremely costly and large roadway to satisfy 3 lots, and that possibly there's an alternative better, which would be allowing them to flex the frontage down so that the roadway is not required. Therefore, you don't need any drainage issues. You're having with less impact environmentally.
Thank you. I understand that. But accepting this yield plan means accepting the premise that this is a feasible option. Where typically a yield plan shows me a lot that's been divided up into portions, and this is where houses are. I've never seen one yet that shows me the creation of a brand new public road, which would also change traffic patterns because Hunt Avenue is a dead end, and I don't know if, who gets to decide if now Hunt Avenue becomes a cut-through?
I think that's the point. The point is the board to look at that and consider all of that and saying, gee, if an applicant were to come in and propose this, is this really what we want? Or is what they're proposing?
I don't think we're debating whether or not this road is something we want, but is it even, if it's not feasible, then we can't even talk about whether or not this is a legitimate yield plan. You know what I'm saying? Like, if this isn't feasible because it's very hilly or very wet or there's some other obstacle to this, then this yield plan is not worth the paper it's printed on. So that's my question is, I have to then accept that this is a reasonable road. We have to give him basically permission to say that this road is legit to then use the yield plan to move forward. And I don't know if this drawing is,
I'm not sure if it's legit or if it's doable at great expense. We often have the conversation of, is this a realistic yield plan with some applications?
And I think we have addressed that in some applications where some people have shown a road crossing grades where you can't physically put a road in. And we've required them to go back and redraw it so that, yes, it is actually something that is physically feasible. But, in all fairness, that's more of a discussion to come up at the first formal stage of a preliminary plan and a pre-app. But yeah, they do have an obligation to show that it's a road that could actually be built to support those lots.
For me, that feels like that would be a requirement before I could even accept the yield plan to then in turn be able to accept the flexible design.
Right, but you're not being asked to do that at pre-app.
But how can I accept this as a yield plan if it's not even feasible? If it's not feasible, then it's not a yield plan.
If I may, real quickly, I heard what you said. It sounds like you need more information when we come back at the next stage. So we can provide that more information. And this is a pre-app discussion. I'm trying to get the feel for how the board is liking between these alternatives. So I've heard what you said. I've wrote it all down, getting, some more feasibility. You're absolutely right. It's very common on the place you probably see it more commonly is in your flexible design where you're doing, you need a yield plan first, and then you come in and do the open space alternatives and move it around, right? And making sure you don't have a road that goes through the middle of a wetland and things like that. It has to be justifiable. That I know at one time too, we had to show that septics worked with the 150 feet that off of every wetland. That I know that's now gone away, but having septic systems off of wetlands and justifying all of that. So there is a complexity that goes to a yield plan, and it sounds like, I just want to make sure that I'm able to address things at the next stage. Is it grades? Is it, what in particular would be most concerning that I can make sure that I address as far as, is it the connecting of the grades from where Hunt Ave connects to Rockland? Is that what's of concern, or?
Without having walked this site,
Sure.
I have no idea.
Okay.
But I guess for me, this is a Google Earth photograph that somebody drew a Sharpie line across and said, that's our road. Like, I have no infrastructure information. I don't know if this, I don't know if this is a legitimate street creation based on this drawing.
Okay.
And I'm assuming that it's all good to even be able to move on to the next stage. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if this is a legitimate I've never created a street before. What's involved in creating a street?
Sure.
Does somebody just get to say, I'm going to draw a street between these two dead ends, and the town's now going to have a new street to maintain? Like, I don't know.
Got it.
To make this the yield plan, every piece of land is not a road in the making. I don't know if this piece of land is a legitimate, if this is a legitimately designed road to call it the yield plan. Is that?
Yeah, no, I do. The only thing I want to clarify is with the pre-app, we're going to the next stage anyway. So we're getting the feedback, and then we're going to go to the next stage. And it sounds like I can provide that extra data for you at the next stage. I've heard you, and I've noted we need some extra details on the roadway if it was the case.
That's perfect. I would personally be looking for evidence that this is a legitimate road to support these 3 big houses, and then that's a legitimate yield plan. That would be an obstacle for me moving forward.
Joe?
So I'm in agreement with Susan. I may say it slightly different, but typically a yield plan is provided only to show us the number of lots that's allowed by right. In this particular case, the plan that you give us has to be something that is of good land use, proper design, something that is feasible, because not only is it a yield plan, but you are asking for a waiver. Our standards for review, our standard to approve, has to be that what you are asking for a waiver presents better design. So it becomes that yield plan. It's not just a yield plan. It becomes the basis of what would be allowed by right, that is of good planning. That becomes our baseline. And then the actual plan has to be shown that it is better land use for the community and for the neighboring property owners. So what I'd be looking for is, one, as I think Susan said, a plan that is more than just a yield plan. It's actually a legitimate, allowed by right, good land use road that doesn't require any variances. And then your plan, which you will articulate and explain to why that is better for the community, not for the applicant, but for the community, and presents better land use. As part of that, there's a couple things that I would ask staff for and be prepared. One would be that there be some search in the records for the original subdivision of that area to determine whether, when that original subdivision went into place, when there was anything else that was visualized or proposed for that road. A lot of times we may see that there was a paper road or there was plans in that original plan for connecting it. So I'd want to see what was originally visually planned. The second thing that I would ask staff for, and this would either come from Mark or maybe Richard, but from Public Works, whether there is any community interest with that road being developed, whether that would serve a public good if in fact that road was developed. So I would need to know that so that I can make that determination of whether this in fact is a better land use than that road going forward. So those are the two things I'd ask for staff. And for the applicant, I would ask that you show us a good plan that is is viable and doesn't require any variances, it's based.
Can you explain on the yield plan adjacent to where it says yield 1, there are 2 light gray kind of cross-hatched areas, and on the other plan, there are also 2 gray diagonally hatched areas that say existing single-family residence. Are those the same
They
thing?
are. Yes,
So that would mean that your theoretical road would go through the existing residence?
yeah, and I think I said that when I was presenting it, and maybe I missed that, I apologize if I did. I did say that the yield plan would require the existing home to be relocated. Yeah, that would be part of it as well. I mean,
Why would you ever do that?
because it's directly in line with Hunt Avenue, so it would have to in that instance. I mean, to come in, by the time you put a legal-sized cul-de-sac, it would take up the width in that area, so that would make the most sense in that area. So. I definitely heard what was said and can provide more information.
If we're ready to move away from the yield plan, I have some questions about the site layout plan sheet 4 that you previously submitted. If I'm reading this correctly, so the frontage on Rockland Drive is approximately 52 feet. And you've got 2 driveways coming into Rockland Drive, and those 2 driveways are right on the curve at Rockland Drive. And I'm seeing measures that say 26 feet and 26 feet, but that would total 52. But how wide is the actual driveway for each house? Because there's a lot of land in between there. So I'm confused as to what the 26 feet, where those lines begin and end. You understand, how wide is the driveway that's coming out into the curve of Rockland Drive?
Each of those driveways is approximately 12 feet wide.
Okay. So I find this map a little bit misleading because it looks like they're 26 feet wide. And when you go to the site and drive there, you'll see that there's a lot of houses fronting on Rockland Drive, and the space for these 2 driveways seems to be extremely compressed. So my concern really is the density
Of the driveways.
of the density of the surrounding areas and the congestion where the driveways come out. And the nice part about your yield plan is extending Hunt Avenue creates a roadway that's, I'm not sure how wide that roadway is either, because I don't think it's the full 52 feet.
It's not. It's a traditional 50-foot right-of-way, public right-of-way.
So that's the 50-foot right-of-way?
Yes.
But 50 feet is considerably broader than 12 feet, so there's a lot more visibility for the cars coming out. So my concern really is, it's a residential area. I assume there are going to be kids there, and it's kind of. It's not like it's heavily trafficked other than by the local residents. So I would anticipate that there could be kids with bicycles and the like. And I'm not sure how much visibility the cars are going to have coming out of their driveways. And they're coming into a curve. So I'm actually concerned about the safety of the layout that you're proposing.
I have two notes on that. One, the existing driveway for the existing home has the driveway there today. It actually comes to Rockland. So we're talking about effectively one new driveway.
Okay,
I just want to clarify that first of all.
That was not clear when I drove past, so
Okay.
I appreciate that.
Yep, so it's one new driveway, first of all. And the other thing I just wanted to note is, the outside part, they call the elbow, the outside part of a curve is typically the best sight lines. That's right. If you were in the inside part of the curve, you can't see as well, but this is on the outside part of the curve. So seeing both ends of Rockland Drive, sight lines So again, I noted that. I put a note down on sightlines for additional information of things that you've requested, so I noted that.
Exactly the sightlines, but just for myself, which of the, so you've got two single-family homes, which one is the existing driveway?
It effectively lines more with the lot number.
Is it the one closest to the bottom of the page, or is it the one, the second up?
The second up, the middle one, it aligns more
Okay.
with that one.
I can appreciate that, thank you.
But I did note the extra information that you're requesting on the sight line, so we can provide that.
So I have another question, sort of where Caper was looking. Where's the lot line on the bottom of this? Is it the bright blue line?
That is the exterior property line, yes.
Okay. So the last couple of inches of the driveway, is that in the public right-of-way? What's the?
Yeah, just like any road that has to connect to the right-of-way, yeah. Right, I mean, a driveway has to eventually connect into the public right-of-way.
Well, I don't know where the road ends because there's no tree coverage. Is the road up here? Okay. Have you thought about merging the those driveways together with an easement to reduce?
We typically try to avoid that, just from shared purposes of.
No one wants to share.
It just becomes legal problems. Who ends up repairing it? It becomes difficult at times. So.
Seems like it would simplify it if you could, and certainly reduce the amount of pavement. Joe?
Eric, have you reviewed the original subdivision in that area to determine whether there was any notes or paper road or anything with the original?
We're actually doing the Class 1 boundary now to get prep for the next stage, right? So that would be, we haven't finalized it, but we're doing all the research, and that's part of it. So again, we'll have more of those details at that time.
Okay, because obviously if there's some type of paper road, you have to go through the abandonment process before you come in front of this board for that type of relief.
The best of my understanding from what surveyors told me on the initial research, again, we're still going through it, was in good planning practice, Hunt Ave was put directly to a property line. That's a good planning practice, right, for somebody to continue at a future stage. So that's my understanding. But again, if there was ever a paper street through there, that's something that would need to be noted.
Okay, so you, in addition to the staff looking at, you will also provide that to the next meeting?
We will have a Class 1 survey that shows, that takes obviously all of the research, any title, and all of that. So I'm not sure, we can provide that to staff. I don't know that staff needs to do the survey research on it, but we will provide that to them to make it easier for them, because I'll be honest, I'm not sure that's something that the surveyor would be.
On the, I want to say the top of the page, on Ave, after that, the geography drops off pretty quickly, right? So it's almost as if the original plan to go through, but it wasn't because of the geography versus the, well, that would be the, I guess, why it wasn't.
Anyone else? Robin?
So Eric, in the traditional,
Yield, yeah.
it looks like on lot 3, the house comes very close to the 30-yard setback. Has it actually cleared the 30-yard setback there?
Could you tell me which lot in particular you were?
The southernmost, the lot 3.
Lot 3? I don't believe we're right now. It's right on the front setback there. So.
And then on your proposed, just quite a bit further away from the setback.
Correct. Yeah. It was tucking it back off the street a bit. Yep.
Well, I'm considering the land trust property line.
Oh, I understand.
So I think that would be a great benefit in land use, that you gave them a larger buffer.
I understand. Thank you.
You haven't spoken with the land trust, I assume, about the adjacent property?
Wouldn't want to get your feedback before we even see what's going on.
There are a couple of buildings inside the buffer, and what's the plan for? On lot 2, it looks like there's 2 buildings that exist that are inside the
Oh, those would be removed, I'm sorry, on the non-yield plan, the flexible one, yeah, those would be removed. We wouldn't have any extra exterior that would be in any.
And would that become wooded natural, or is that going to be lawn? Because that would clearly be
Undetermined
inside.
at this time. Obviously, it was disturbed with the building previously, so I would think it would be lawns, but.
Because it is inside the 30-foot buffer then.
That's a rear yard setback. So the structures will have to be removed. We're not going to be proposing non-compliant structures. So the structures need to be removed. What the vegetative treatment would be, if it's grass versus trees, not.
It's not a buffer per se.
Correct.
Any other comments? Susan? You sure? I guess that's it.
The only other part that we had to this, was we had requested whether or not this could be combined as a master plan and prelim, given the amount of information that sounds like we're looking for detailed information also. It feels like it's almost of a preliminary level anyway. So on a 3-lot subdivision, we had requested, and obviously it's the planning board's ability to either accept that request or not, but that the master plan and prelim be combined strictly to.
I didn't see that. Was that in our?
It was a cover letter. It was a
it
separate
wasn't
cover
on
letter.
I see.
We didn't write it specifically on the site plan. We did it as a separate cover letter.
I think maybe the department could help us speak to that.
One of the reasons we ask for it is typically the level of detail, similar to what you're saying, to justify even at the master plan level, is a little bit more advanced, number one. Number two, to save from redundancy, if we came to a master plan, we would likely be saying the exact same things at the subsequent preliminary if it moved on. So it seemed to make sense in this instance to be able to just combine those stages. This would normally be viewed as a minor, but it pushes to a major because of the flexible. So that was the reason for the request.
The draft language was put in the.
I somehow missed the last page. Opinions on this? And it's a given that the information and the requested research would be part of.
I mean, truthfully, I'm okay with it. I'm not necessarily against this plan at all. I think it's probably a pretty good one. So I'm okay with it. With that said, if there's any records at all that indicates that a road was originally envisioned, or if the town, for some reason, believes it's best being proposed, best being developed, then we're going to be in a whole different situation. But assuming that that's not the case, I'm okay with the plan.
Everyone else? Combining the 2 stages, Robin?
Well, I did ask if the department had any comment on that.
Any comment on what exactly?
On combining the 2 phases.
I think it's completely appropriate. Conceptual master plan typically reserve larger, more complicated lots where there's a lot of discussion as to what the density is actually going to yield out at. Typically that happens on a project that's going to yield more than 10. Pick a number. Certainly not a one-off project like this where, we're left with, we're starting with an irregularly shaped and located parcel, and we're trying to figure out the best way to allow it to be developed. What is that? And this board frequently entertains that. Frequently entertain flexible frontage subdivisions. Frequently see yield plans before you. Yield plans are not meant to be engineered or designed to any at any point. If push were to come to shove, I'm sure Eric's stamp on the plan provides enough justification that, to his knowledge at this point in time, that is accurate and can be constructed to the best of his knowledge. Unfortunately, I think that's all the board really has to go off of. That's all you can really ask of them.
And it's up to them to provide the information that would have been provided at two separate stages of review.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm fine with
And an FDRP is better than certain other types of,
You mean the flexible frontage?
Yeah, flexible frontage is much
FDRP,
better
right?
than-
There's some
that's
that
what I-
confusion happens all the time with that, but yeah, it allows you the flexibility to let something else happen there that otherwise, if they had to follow the regulations, it may be very wonky just because of the layout. It gives the ability of the planning board to kind of say, okay, I understand this is a tough one. Let's look at it this way. It's a little bit better. Lastly, because it's so fresh on everyone's minds, this property is in an R10 zoning district. The proposed lot sizes for this property could result in the allowance of a duplex. It could. Now, our allowances for flexible frontage are silent to use. It says that the lot shall be created if the planning board feels that the alternative is a better design. It's not specific. It doesn't prohibit. It doesn't say single family only.
yep. Yeah, you don't need to say it, we're good.
Right. But I think it's important for everybody to understand is that when these things come up, that we're subject to the allowances of the zoning ordinance. And those allowances, while everybody knows about it on Oak Street, it's also allowed throughout Peacedale, Wakefield proper in the R10 zone.
And just from a historical perspective, the flexible frontage provisions are what used to be called hockey stick lots. And you can kind of see it when you look at the configuration of the lot.
Or flag lots, I've heard them called flag lots or hockey stick lots.
Susan?
So we are potentially choosing the flexible design over the conventional subdivision. But I think therefore we actually will need, and Joe talked more eloquently than I did about having these two different options to compare.
It's not a different kind of, we're choosing the flexible frontage provision with regard to the fact that there's a yield plan showing that they could do something
Right.
else.
But we need to see a yield plan that will show that they could do something else, which we have not seen.
No,
Well, that depends on your perspective, I guess.
Well, if I take a map of your neighborhood and draw a line across and say I'm going to put a road there, is that a yield plan? Because, like seriously, I'm not trying to be difficult, but this is a line drawn on a map, and I don't know what is involved with making a public street in this town, and how complicated that is, and whether or not there is. If you're going to a private road, I understand, but a public road that's going to impact all these neighbors, I would think includes a hearing in front of the town council. There's more to it, I think, than drawing a line on a map and calling it a potential public road.
they're not limited to a public road. They could choose to do a private road if they would like.
Well, that wasn't what they've offered us.
It's not, but it's conceptual design. It's a roadway saying you should be looking at the plan itself and saying, if we were to develop this to the way the zoning ordinance requires, this is the biggest deal, this is the most we can get.
Yeah.
This is the most we can get. And with Eric's stamp on it, I think you need to be able to say, without any other information that goes against that, you have to take and say, okay, this is the yield plan for the property.
All right, well, that's,
I think it's also important to note you're not being offered a choice between the two plans. The application is for the flexible frontage plan.
but part of my decision has to be that the flexible frontage is an improvement over this.
Right, but you're
And I
not,
don't-
at no point are you being asked to approve that. You're being
But I
asked
have
to
to-
approve the flexible frontage.
But you're asking me to say
part
it's
of the-
better than this,
And,
that it's
right,
an improvement on
but
this.
your decision is that if you think that the creation of the private street is the better option, that flexible frontage does not meet the requirement of being better planning than the conventional, then you deny the flexible frontage.
Okay.
But you would also, to expand on that, Peter could probably chime in, but you would probably need to explain why. Michael?
So my understanding what's happening here is that they are asking us for a waiver. They're asking the board to approve a waiver, and that, approve a variance. And that variance is for the amount of frontage. And the board has the right to provide a waiver to that variance if their finding is that granting that waiver will end up in a better land use than if we required them to build it without a waiver. So that's what you're looking at. If we grant them a waiver to let them have less frontage, will that be better land use than if we said, no, you're not going to get a variance, you have to build it without any variances? Right. Now, it could result in more lots, could result in a higher density if they put the road in, but, and I think if this was 5 years ago or 7 years ago, we would say that's bad, because we don't want the density and the neighbors don't want the density. But in today's environment, I think that we have made a push to have higher densities in those areas where we want infill. So all that, I guess, comes down to the opinion of the individual board members and whether this is a better design to grant them that variance.
If I may briefly, we're agreeable to providing some more information. I don't think if I've come off as saying that we won't provide additional information to the yield plan at the next stage, I apologize if that's come off. We'll provide that. We'll put the justification down so that you have that information at the next stage. So I just want to make that clear that
Thank you.
we will provide that.
You did, but there might be others in the room who said Eric's stamp of approval is good enough for me. So that was, I think, what I was pushing back against. Not your statement.
And there is a.
And not that it has anything to do with your stamp of approval.
Don't take it as that. I understand exactly what you're saying, and I know with yield plans, a lot of times it's how far do you engineer a plan that you know is probably not even going to be the thing that you want. Like in a traditional flexible design residential, right? You know you want the open space and you want the smaller lots and the less infrastructure. You know that. But at some point, you're also justifying and weighing that with whether or not the yield plan works. So I get it, but you don't fully engineer the yield plan either. So I'll provide the information and make sure and understand, obviously, as mentioned, I mean, if the board, in the end of the day, decides that they feel that a roadway going through there is a better design practice, that's the onus on us that I have to provide to you that we believe that the non-yield plan is a much better alternative. If I haven't done that, but that's what we're requesting. We're requesting the non-yield plan. We're requesting the flexible frontage, and again, it would be denied if you didn't feel that was the way.
Are we ready to go back to the combined stages of review, everyone? Would someone like to make the motion? I'll make the motion. We have a motion from Caper. Do we have a second? I'll second. Second from Joe. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Appreciate the time and feedback. Thank you.
Moving on to, there's no report of the administrative officer, right? So, duty member for next TRC meeting, which is Wednesday, September the 10th. Anyone?
I don't know, we don't have anything, but I don't know how many are going to be on it. There are a number of applications that are waiting to be reviewed. But I don't recall if anyone specifically is actually scheduled yet for that.
All right, we have a volunteer. Susan's going to do it. Thank you, Susan. If there's nothing else, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion from Joe, second? Second. Second from Caper. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thanks, everyone.